that society, that civilization that's, ideal in the sight of God, and what things will be added. And I know this much, that money is the root. This is where we got to stick the axis to the root. And it's the only hope we have is to have sound, stable currency. Because these people are killing us through the, like I was talking about Lord Christopher Monckton. No, I mean, 1 billion people are going to die. If they cut Granny's gas because she can't afford to buy it anymore and she can't heat her home, then, there's going to be a lot of people dying. The weak and vulnerable are going to die. This is the idea. Bill Gates, and his case for killing Granny and the death panels, all this kind of stuff. And so we know it's a reality that there is these people that look at human life as a commodity, and if it costs the collective too much, we've got to get rid of it. But these people are the same ones that, constantly proliferate the problems, exacerbate the problems, and come in like the saviors. Problem, reaction, solution, right? So they create the problem, then they come in. They, look at social welfare program. Okay, the government are the ones that allow the poverty to flourish. Okay, so they're colluding. And for all intents and purposes, they're the ones that control the money printers, these lending institutions that have really raped the daylights out of them. This is central for people to understand, is how our wealth is being stolen right from under our noses. It's being stolen through the debasement of our currency, through taking away the worth of your currency. This has been going on for decades and decades now. And you know what? This is key. This is the poverty. With the poverty comes the chaos. They get crime. They get control. So now they got to set up all these sundry law enforcement agencies, right? And then the dubious war. It enables them to start wars when they're doing these things that you and I won't do, like a false flag operation, because it's all about industry and business. It's good for business. So, don't worry. The end justifies the means kind of mentality. It doesn't matter how many people die, as long as we come out of this whole thing more prosperous, or at least a segment does, because at the same time we've got the wealth disparity growing constantly. We've got poverty exploding constantly. And we are losing the middle class constantly. This is by plan. This is not incidentally, and whoops, we're incompetent. No, this is a diabolical plan. This is a huge way to kill humanity, okay, is through economics. And, it's really evil. And we need help from on high, because I'm not going to stand here and try to tell anybody that violence is a solution. Look, let's be honest there. 1776, okay, let's be honest, okay, did it take, okay, because what, 245, 50 years later, okay, look at the mess we're in. Now, do we have our independence? Look who took over, the New World Order, the money printing class, a coup d'etat, blowing JFK's brains out, taking over the money printing. Do you understand the dire straits we're in as a species? And that's what we all have to face. It's not being negative. It's saying don't buy the line you've been fed your whole life, right? Ignorance is bliss. How many people heard that and didn't comment and just let it soak in, and now it's affecting their paradigm, their reality on a subliminal, subconscious level? Ignorance is bliss. And then they say, okay, now I know where that came from, because they came into an uncomfortable confrontation perhaps, and they got to talk about some controversial issue they felt strongly about with somebody that disagreed with them. And then they said, you know what, that's it, man. That was stressful. My blood pressure went up, my pulse was beating, my adrenaline was flowing. I could see that took years off my life maybe. So they're afraid to go there anymore. Instead of getting used to it, and saying, you know what, it's hot in the kitchen, but I'm stuck in the kitchen. I need to get used to it. Because there's no way, how can any of us get out of the kitchen? Go to some, South Sea Isle, some deserted island? I mean, even that. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere on the face of the earth where you can be, insulated from the evil people, because they're after everybody. Look what they're doing in Syria. Look what they did in Libya. Two of the more prosperous nations in that region. With you can say what you want about the leadership. They're decadent slobs, whatever, maybe dictatorial even. I don't know, but nevertheless, by their actions, they proved to be egalitarian toward their people. That they were offering a high standard of living, making life, improve life's living standard improvements, and this is what they have to stick. But they won't go into debt. They see that as the scam that it is, And so these people don't want to go into debt, and this is why they're hated by this New World Order class, because they're two peas in the pod with the money printing class. That's how they get away with it. You got to have the dough. You got the money, I'll kill the guy. I mean, isn't this how they roll? Everybody knows it is. We just need to be honest and say, look, our reality is a pseudo-reality. This is an unreality. Okay, this whole idea that, it's, you missed the bandwagon. I've had to watch that going on for so long with the housing here in California. And it's like a disease. It really is. It's a really dark entity that takes over. It just saps people's joy as you see it just gradually stealing people's financial freedom, stealing their financial hope, stealing their financial security, leaving them in a world of hurt and fear and intimidation, and oppression. That's what it is. If you look up the word oppression, you understand that money is the primary tool, the primary weapon used. It's not so innocent as just to be, it's just a medium of exchange, to help facilitate exchange and all this innocent rubbish. Okay, bull. Then let's put the name of we the people on the currency, okay? And let's have we the people decide the direction our currency takes. Because there are certain immutable laws out there, truths, like the law of supply and demand, okay? That's why it's called a law. That if you do X, you can expect Y. And what is that? If you start with your currency being worth X, okay, it's supposed to do Y. And Y means it's supposed to go increase in worth. It's supposed to not debase, it's supposed to go up in value, up in purchasing power, buying power, worth. Okay, and the reasoning behind that is simple. Because as a collective civilization society, because nobody's doing all the jobs, I love wearing, smart looking clothes and all this crap, but you know what? I don't know a damn thing. If it was up to me, we'd all be wearing rags. Okay, but so I'm very grateful to the working class. Common, often uneducated labor are doing all the heavy lifting, and they're taking all the oppression, okay? That's who it is. That's why I am such a champion of that class of people, because really these are the ones that keep the wheels of society turning. You don't need a great education to drive a truck, but is your job important? Let's be honest. Okay, you don't need a great education to grow a crop, but is your job important? Of course it is. You don't need a great education to be a fisherman. Is your job important? Yes, thank you for the fisherman. On and on, the mechanics. Okay, how many people would be lost? If you had to fix your own car, how many people, a mechanic could charge what a brain surgeon charges if they wanted to, if they scammed it. You understand, the point I'm trying to make is that it's an unreality. It's not based on anything that's substantial that you can sink your teeth into. It's just lofty and made up and, poofy, it's just the way it is, accepted, it's capital, it's America, and all this when, crony capitalism is far too polite a term. But if you look it up, it's very fitting to what kind of capitalism this is. But it's no form of real capitalism. It's not genuine capitalism. It's not any kind that the Milton Friedmans or the, Alan Keynes would recommend, or the great Adam Smith. None of these people, because they were offering humanity ideas that would work, that would, produce the results you want. And what do you want? Well, if you don't want wealth disparity, then yes, you got it. You answered your own question. You want wealth equality. You want the gap between haves and have-nots to constantly be decreasing. Till what? Till we're all in a state of poverty? No. So this is why I'm opposed to the Robin Hood philosophy of taking from the haves and giving to the have-nots. No, that's their lie. That's their diabolical way of doing business. This is how they roll. They lie, cheat, steal, deceive, murder, whatever they can have to do to stay in positions of power. That's the people. They trick us. They're tricksters, sorcerers, cunning, baffling. They conjure stuff up. They make stuff up. They draw up the fine print. These people they're delusional madmen, and they think they got it going on, and they know they're being exposed, but they just keep digging their hole deeper and deeper and deeper. But we've got to say no to these people and say, look, if my currency goes down in worth relative to any particular commodity or service, then I demand accountability. If we, the people, did that as a collective, unionized, okay, and just said, you know what, let's see, is there a shortage there? So is that where I need to go work? And because they're not, they don't have enough water to water this crop, they got a drought, or, what seems to be the problem here, sort of thing. And if society did that as a collective, say, hey, you're really needed over here, so we straighten this problem out so that we can get your currency going back up, in worth relative to that commodity. If there's not enough housing, then let's get people busy building housing, okay, and end homelessness. It's just logical. I've done the research myself on housing, and I discovered, this must have been close to 10 years ago now, but you could house every homeless man, woman, and child in America and still have 90% of the vacant available housing left over. That's to rent or to purchase afterward, okay? That's the reality. So all this stuff it's artificial austerity, it's artificial scarcity, it's artificial poverty, it's intentional impoverishment, deliberate impoverishment of the people. This is how they gain control. So it's not just they get control through crime, because this is what spurs so much of the crime we have. Even relationship crime. I mean, when you've got all these divorces because you've got this financial stress within the relationship. This spouse isn't making enough, that spouse isn't making enough, and I need a spouse that's a go-getter, and she's a breadwinner. I got whatever the case may be, male or female, it doesn't matter. I mean, these days it's all lumped together, right? But it's just bull. So these people are wrecking up the family. This is another way they're depopulating. I mean, if you look, you got to really look deep, and the rabbit hole is deep, and they're trying to pull us down there. There's a deep well of misery within their hearts and souls, their spirits and their minds. There's a misery. Remember what they've got on their conscience. They don't want to stand before their maker and answer for their behavior. Say, justify that belief system. What are you going to say? That's what we've all got to be ready for, to justify our belief systems and the things we taught and espoused to other people. What do you base it on? Is it logical? Is it reasonable? Are you living by the golden rule? Are you treating that person the way you would like to be treated, or are you not? And if you're not, you're going to a bad place. That's it. So when you die, there's no more time to repent. There's no more time to say, God, you know what? I'm so sorry. I was an a-hole, and I've turned my ways, and I've sold all my possessions and given to the poor, just like Jesus talked about the rich guy. What must he do to inherit eternal life? But that's a life worth living, because it's not written the wicked will be destroyed in the sense that they won't exist. They'll be destroyed in the sense that they'll be banished. They'll no more exist on the surface of the earth. They've already got this underground labyrinth of tunnels and crap prepared, which would be existentially called hell, I think, from the Bible. So I mean, these people are going to a dark and painful place from here. And that's why it's so important that you don't, you want to convince others they don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. So this is serious business. We've got to get real and right with, the spirit of truth. That's it. We're just tapping into that divine presence that loves us in a way that we can't comprehend, that, nobody else on earth can love us in that way. And, we need that kind of love. We need that kind of understanding. We need that kind of mercy, that kind of forgiveness and compassion. We all need it. We all need Jesus Christ. I mean, in a nutshell, we all need what he offered. And, I like to point this out that, so many people don't realize that they're recipients, great recipients of the levity that Jesus brought through proving that there is no death. This whole idea that death is a lie from the pit of hell. Jesus proved that God has the power, even he as a man, half man, born of a woman, but, of divine, on the male side, divine masculinity. So he proved that death is a lie. It's written that to God all are alive. There's this thing called the resurrection of the dead. And when you think about it, well, oh man, he was cremated and we spread his ashes. We did that with my mom right here in the Monterey Bay back in 1979. She died as a young woman of 47. But, hey, the atoms don't disappear. They change, the molecules change, but I mean, remember that God owns the essence, and the essence is in the heart and the soul and the spirit and the mind of the human being. We are literally children of God. That makes us cosmic, godlike, divine creatures. Our potential is limitless. This thing is about eternity. It's about saying, you know what? I'm trying to get ready for eternity. I'm trying to mold my future and help other people, and listen to other people when they're trying to, guide me to mold my future for my children, their children, and for, what is coming. But we want to have a society that's livable. We want to be free. There's no reason in the world why we, as such, by far and away, higher creatures, subjugate ourselves, and allow ourselves to be beholden to these money